What's up, guys? Welcome to the Sober Fix podcast channel. We just made it another week. Another week without having to turn to drugs or alcohol to cope with uncomfortable feelings in life or anything that life brings our way that we find stressful. I just want to say welcome if it's your first time. We got another episode on today. We got Kyle. Kyle is from the East Coast. He's got quite the story, man. He's been through it. Multiple overdoses. He talks about being in treatment and getting out. And before his family even knew that he had left treatment, he had overdosed again. And he gets into where his addiction took him, how he ended up getting arrested for stuff that he did, influenced by drugs. And he gets into his recovery and what's changed with his recovery, his relationships, and how things have gotten a lot better. He's also working on a recovery clothing line. Cool stuff. He is brutally honest. He tells you exactly how it is. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. Let's get into it. What's up, guys? We are back for another episode of the Sober Fix podcast, and we've got another guest on today. We've got Kyle. Kyle, I appreciate you taking the time to come on and share your experience and your story.
I'm
How are you
great,
doing
man.
today?
I'm blessed. My higher power is giving me the time to stay another day clean, and honestly, just another great day alive.
Yeah, man, it's crazy how I think for so many years I got used to just bad days. I felt like I was one of those people that just had like the cloud over me, it felt like. And it's because I just could not stop drinking. I could not stop getting high. I want to why don't you tell everyone where are you from? Where do you live now?
I live in Massachusetts. I live in the Worcester County area. I'm in Worcester. I grew up in Dudley, Mass. Small little farm town. Ended up getting clean and telling myself I can't go home. I can't be with the old playground, old playmates. I can't do it. So I ended up moving out to Worcester. There's a lot of recovery out here and a lot of resources out here for recovery. So I hopped right in.
That's cool, man. And how much did that help you kind of getting away from all the area where you were getting high, everyone you were hanging out with and stuff? Was it helpful to break away for a little bit and start building kind of that new life?
I do not think that I wouldn't have been able to do it, to go back home right away and to hang out and see those same people all day, every day on the corners and the houses. And I couldn't do it. And I know they say the geolocation change, you bring yourself everywhere you go, but I still had to leave, even though it's still close to home. I couldn't. It helped me immensely to not go back home.
Yeah, and I've done that before. I've kind of I've moved to kind of start a fresh start, and it really did help me in the beginning, at least, because when I was just around, when it was too easy for me and the connect, I knew exactly where they were on what street. I knew what everyone around me was doing in that same town where I was getting high in. And when I would try and get sober, and maybe I'd go to a sober living or something that was in a different county, and it made it easier for me. It was kind of like, okay, this is my fresh start. I want to kind of go back to the beginning. What was childhood like for you?
Great. Growing up, playing football. Played football my whole life, big into sports, me and my older brother. Around the time I was 15, I believe it was, that's when my parents got divorced. I was a popular kid, friends, girlfriends, and that was never an issue. The parents got divorced, and my brother went one way, I went another way. He went with my dad, I went with my mom, and that's when things started really getting in a battle for me. My dad was an alcoholic, so I chose to stay with my mom. Through that, I ended up getting kicked out of high school because young kid, not stable. I ended up being real depressed about the of the divorce and started moving around the wrong people and stuff like that. I ended up switching schools because I got kicked out and had to move in with my dad, and that's when all hell broke loose.
So your dad was already struggling with alcohol. Was he someone that like, did he know it? Did he tell you that he had a problem with alcohol, or was it just obvious from watching?
He had no idea. And me and my brother growing up, we had to deal with that. There was times where he would come home from work and he would be so drunk, and my mom would say, just stay away from him. Wait till I cook him dinner. Don't do that. Don't go near him. Don't talk to him. And we would avoid him at all costs. I remember being a kid, there was times my mom would come home and not know where my dad was. He'd never come home from work, and she'd put me and my brother in the car, and we were little at the time, and we'd drive around bar to bar trying to find him. Turned out he got a little smarter and he'd go to restaurants like Red Robin or Uno or something like that. So we couldn't find him, but he had no idea. And fortunately for him, when the divorce happened, he started to stop drinking. And then me and my brother picked up the addiction. So, but to this day, he still has no idea. He doesn't
Really?
drink anymore. He doesn't smoke cigarettes anymore. He'll smoke cigars occasionally. But once that divorce happened, he changed his whole life. And it's like me and my brother adopted his
So you
yeah.
guys kind of switched. It's like he got sober and then you guys picked it up. How did he do it?
Yeah, I mean, my mom must have stressed him out to the point. I don't know. I don't know how he did it. He didn't do meetings. He didn't do anything. He just put it down and never picked it up again. And I, even to this day, I can't understand that because I don't drink like a gentleman. I don't do drugs like a gentleman. And I couldn't go to a restaurant and have a beer with dinner. That's for sure. So I don't know how he does it at all. I don't know how he did it or how he does it at all.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I love hearing stories like that because I was one of those people that I had to do a lot of things to try and stay sober and to not be mentally insane and just to be in recovery. And then I hear other people that they say no, I'm done, and they find a way to make it happen. It's so interesting. What was the first thing that you found? Was it alcohol or was
Yeah, I
it
remember when I was a
substances?
kid, they would be having cookouts, big cookouts. We'd have these massive cookouts, and me and all my friends would be running around the deck, and we'd be reaching over and stealing twisted teas out of the coolers and going to drink them behind the shed and stuff like that. Then that progressed. Once I got into high school, got a little older, the marijuana came in and started smoking weed every day, drinking every day, and then about sophomore year of high school, junior year of high school, that's when the Percocets came in. Percocets end up leading to heroin. Heroin ends up leading to overdoses with children in the house, my two kids at the time. And that's why it sounds crazy, but I always say crack cocaine saved my life. Because if I didn't find crack cocaine, I would have kept doing heroin, which turned into fentanyl problem, and I would have kept overdosing and dying, and I wouldn't be here today without that. So it sounds a little crazy saying that, but I believe that it saved my life because it took me away from the downers, and then I had a long run of events, bad events, but also good events.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like you wearing a shirt that says like crack cocaine
Yeah,
saved
so
my life.
when I go to commitments and say it, everybody kinda looks at me sideways, and they're like, "What did he just say?" And I'm like, "Well, you gotta be open-minded and willing to understand what I'm getting at." You know what I mean?
Hey, the funny thing is, it actually makes perfect sense to me, and it's funny because I've heard people say the same thing about like other stimulants and stuff. Because once we're on the heroin, it's really bad, especially nowadays with how many people are dying. I want to ask you, how did you discover pills for the first time? I kind of look back. I think my friends gave me a couple pills for the first time. And for me, it was magic. I remember the first time I ever felt that opiate feeling about 30 minutes after I took the pills. And I just felt, oh my gosh, I'm going to chase this forever. But do you remember when you started the pills?
I ended up getting one from my friend, and, being an addict like I am, he sniffed it, and I was like, "Well, can I smoke this? I smoke weed. Can I smoke it?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he gave me the whole thing, the tinfoil, the straw, and the lighter, and I smoked it. And like you said, it was unfortunately the best feeling of my life. And off and running, I went from there. And it just it was like something came over me, like sigh of relief when I would take my first hit. And little did I know that's not a good sigh of relief, but it was an amazing feeling, I thought, at the time. And going from there and moving forward, it just didn't go good.
Yeah, that's kind of I have a very similar story. And that was really the start for me. Once I
When I was just taking the pills, it was one thing, but when I started smoking them and all of a sudden I had the foil out and I was obsessed with kind of the ritual of it and the routine, and I'd run into the grocery store and I remember just go running over to the foil and grabbing I'd open it up and grab a square and run off, and people would see me and they're like, why the hell did that guy just get foil? Or I'd be sitting there I'd go to the cash register and all I would be getting is like foil, and like, I'd go to McDonald's and get like a straw, and I'd be buying lighters and maybe like an energy drink or something. But once I got started on the smoking it was a whole nother deal. And that thing, it hooked me fast, very fast. Was it the same thing for you once you started smoking it? It was just took it to another
The
level.
process of it, like you said, I got addicted to that too. I would draw little pictures as I was smoking it and watching it. I'd draw little pictures thinking I'm having fun. I can identify with the running into the grocery stores too. I'd run in, rip a little chunk off because I had no money. I was a kid. Yeah, it was more or less fun at that point. It really was. It was really fun. The smoking it is where I think it got away, and through the grace of God, I've never touched a needle. I have family members that have. So I saw that at that same time. I saw that and I wouldn't do it. So I've always just stuck to smoking any drug. Any drug that could be smoked, it was smoked.
Yeah, and that's good. I'm happy to hear that for you, really, because I ended up going to that stuff, and man, it was just a whole nother level of it. Just had so much control over me, but wasn't far off from the smoking. Like people that have just smoked, they understand the insanity behind it because it grabs you just as much. I want to ask you, how long did it take? So you're now smoking. How long did it take for things to start going bad?
Probably, I have a little card here. This is when it went all downhill. Probably around August 2018. So that was one of my best friends had passed away, and he would help me stop drinking and stop doing drugs and stuff like that. And around that time, he passed away of a crazy thing. Like he didn't do drugs, he didn't drink. We were roofers, and he had a brain aneurysm. I worked with him on Saturday. Sunday, he said, "Hey, you want to come do a little side job?" I said, "I can't." He went up on the roof, got to the top, passed out, and fell off the roof. And he had a brain aneurysm that no one knowed about, and he was in the ICU, and he ended up passing away. Once that happened, that's when the heroin came, and that's when the bad things started happening. That's when the case of the efforts came in for me, and I said, I don't care anymore. I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and it never got better from there.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I hear that a lot of us. I think we've already started getting high, or whether it's drinking or whatever it is. And then a lot of times there's kind of like a catalyst or something that pushes us to that full speed. And a lot of times it is grief. And then I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's sad. And it's one of those things where I look back on some of the friends that I've had that have had not that same situation, but similar, a lot of them, and I'm like, "Man, how am I alive after all the drugs and the crazy stuff I was doing?" And then my friend who never touched drugs ends up having some accident like that. It's so bizarre, but, when that happened, was it the grief that kinda pushed you to that next level, do you think?
Was the grief. So at that time that he passed away, my first son was born, and he passed away. He passed away in the beginning of the month, and my son was born at the end of the month. And so between that, the stresses of being a new young father, the stresses of job, working at the same job where now he's gone. I used to see him every day. Now he's gone. Parents divorced. Everything just kind of started building and building and building quickly. And that's what I think pushed me over the edge to finally say, F it, I'm going to pick up heroin. But the grief was definitely a big part of it because, like you said, when I would smoke that pill, I'm not crying anymore. I'm not angry anymore. It was the savior at the time.
Yeah, it really was. It was almost scary for me how good I could feel, or at least like how numb I could feel no matter what was going on in my life. I mean, I could have just everything bad happening, and the second that I started smoking that stuff, I was just numb right away, and that was scary. And I look back on that now, and I'm like, man, no wonder I was so stuck on it. It made comfortable is what really happened for me. But how did you turn to heroin? Do you remember the first time you kind of transferred over? Because I know that's always like a big decision of ours in our journey. Do you remember the day that you kind of switched over to the heroin?
So I would always find spoons and stuff under my brother's bed and needles and stuff. And I always yelled at him, "Oh, you're doing heroin, blah, blah, blah. Like, why can't you just smoke a pill? Like, it's okay, blah, blah, blah." And he ended up leaving to California, and I was left to my own devices. And the girlfriend at the time that I had with my first son, her little brother also smoked pills, and no one knew about it. He could tell that I was high, but nobody else could tell I was high. So he came up to me one day and he said, "Hey, this is what I do, blah, blah, blah." And I would get him pills. So one day I couldn't get him pills, and he said, "Hey, this girl that you went to high school with in your grade does heroin. We just get that instead. It's the same thing." I said, "You know what? Yeah, why not? F it. It's the same thing." I knew it was the same feeling, the same thing. I just didn't know how much of a different demon it really is. So we ended up just getting a little bag, and he went his way and I went my way, and I smoked it. And I was just telling my girlfriend this the other day, the worst thing that happened to me was nothing. I smoked it, and it was the same thing like smoking a pill. It was the same numbness. It was the same. Everything was the same. Nothing bad happened. I didn't overdose right away. I wasn't nodding out. I went home. I was taking care of my son, changing diapers. Nothing happened. And that's what the worst thing that ever happened to me was.
Yeah, because it kind of just makes you say, you hear all these horror stories associated with it, and you think, man, if I ever did that, like things would just be terrible right away the day that I get high. And I love how you put that. The worst thing that happened was kind of nothing happened, because then you start to think, I could do this. It's the same kind of high I've been chasing for a long time. It's a little bit cheaper to get too. So that's interesting. When was your so you switched over. When was your
So
first
my
overdose?
son was about a year old. It was probably about a year after I switched over, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the kitchen at her parents' house, and we all ate dinner. Very Christian family. We ate dinner at the table. I got up. I said, "Oh, I'm tired." Kissed my son, kissed my girlfriend, said goodnight to her family. Went to the bathroom, sat down, took 2 hits, blacked out. Woke up in the middle of the living room, police, ambulance, everything. The craziest part is after they Narcaned me, I looked at her and I said, "Give me my phone." And that was it. She was holding my son in one hand, my phone in the other. I said, "Give me my phone. You're not looking at that. Give me my phone." Because that's the insane thought process. It's like, she can't see who I'm getting this from. She can't see none of this. She can't know what I'm doing. I just died in her bathroom. She knows what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So that was the first one, and I got sectioned right away. My family sectioned me, and that didn't work either.
What is section? Is that like 5150 or?
It's section 12 out here in Massachusetts. So your family takes you to a court, and it's an unwilling drug program. So so depending on your family tells the judge, so you'll get arrested, and then you sit in a jail cell downstairs at the courthouse or the police station. Your family puts in for a section 12 after you get arrested, and pretty much they plead their case to the judge of why they think you should be sectioned, and then you try to plead your own case, which you know how that goes. So it doesn't work. So I ended up getting sectioned. So I was in a state-run facility and locked doors. And if you leave that facility, because it's a court-ordered section, if you leave, you get a warrant out for your arrest right away, immediately. Yeah, and those are
Wow.
so
And
those
how
are
long do you
21
stay there?
days. So you do a 7-day detox and a 14-day CSS. And then if you somehow get in the right headspace while you're in there, then they have counselors and stuff that will help you get to the next step to help you stay sober. But the problem with those state-run facilities and sections, they're unwilling. Every client in there is in there because court made them to go there. Their family, a judge, probation, parole. Nobody is in a section on their own free will.
That is so interesting. I've never heard of that before. See, in California, we have what's called a 5150, but you have to have some type of psychiatric thing going on, kind of hallucinating, psychosis. It's more of people say that you're out of your mind right now. And it's interesting that over there, it's kind of like, hey, my family member is on drugs and I need your help. And I've never heard about that before. And then I assume that most people there, like you said, they were unwilling. I assume most of them are pretty pissed off. Was that kind of the
Yes,
theme of the place when you
absolutely.
were there?
Absolutely. Nobody, because like I said, nobody wanted to go there. Everyone's headspace was still, now you're locked in, you're locked down. And I got lucky. There was 2 places in Massachusetts that you get sectioned to. One of them is a state-run facility where you're in a hallway, and all your dorms are in a hallway, and then you got a day room in the middle and like a jail bubble. And that was a good hit. Now, the other one is Plymouth County Jail. So you legit just go to jail. Boom, slam the door. No MAT program, no subutex, no nothing. You just go to county jail in Plymouth, and they shut the door on you, and they say, see you in 21 days, kiddo. So I got lucky. I got to go to the other facility, which either way, it didn't help. But I feel like if I did go to the Plymouth County Jail, it would have made everything way worse. Way worse.
Yeah, at least at the that would suck to have to go to the jail part of it, especially when there's another option to where you could get detoxed medically. And I remember years ago, anytime that I went to jail, they knew what I was on, and they knew I was an IV drug user, and they would say, drink some water, buddy, and hold on for the ride because you're gonna have fun the next 2 weeks. Nowadays, in the county jails around here, they actually give people mat, which I'm really happy to hear that. I think I used to watch people just going through it, man, just going through it, so sick for so many weeks, and they just wouldn't help you. But I hear today it's a little bit different. So you got out of there. How long did you last after that little program?
Not even 24 hours. So what had happened was, not even 24 hours, I ended up going to a bar, and I ended up getting more heroin. I'm drinking, I'm smoking the heroin in the bathroom, and sure enough, I overdosed again. Not even in the bar bathroom. My friend that was there with me, I guess he gave me the sternum rub. When I woke up, I felt like someone beat the crap out of me. I was like, what the heck? But I overdosed, and that's when I said, whoa, hold on. I don't want to get sectioned. I'll willingly go to a program. My thinking, I'm looking up the best 5-star detoxes, the best. I'm trying to go to this beautiful, beautiful place and doing all this because that's what's gonna save me. And that's what I did. Yeah, that didn't work either.
Yeah, what were they doing? What was kind of the
That
program like
one
over
was
there at the
actually
nicer
really
place?
sick. And if I went there now, I would use it for what it was worth. So we were in this big house. So when I did go there, they didn't search my shoes, and I had 2 bundles in each shoe, right underneath my soles. And I didn't want to get clean still. I just said, I'm going to go to this beautiful place, and everyone's going to think that I'm getting clean, and then I'm going to come home, and I'm just going to hide it again. And I'll use a little less so I don't overdose. And so I went there. It was this big house, like this mansion. There was probably 15 to 25 of us in this house. You got chores, you had single room, and you wake up in the morning, you eat breakfast provided by them, you get in the druggy buggy, and they bring you to a day place where you have class from like 7:30, kind of like a IOP. So you go from like 7:30 to 4 in the afternoon, take the druggy buggy back to the house, and you just couldn't leave the grounds of the house. Like when you were there, you could go outside freely. You can go sit on the porch and smoke cigarettes. You could go play bocce ball in the yard or basketball in the driveway. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. And didn't take it for what it was. I would sit in those groups every day and be like, I don't need this. I'm not listening to this guy. The food sucks. This place sucks. My window's drafty. Dude, they would take me indoor skydiving on a weekend. They took me to see movies on the weekend. They took me to play paintball on the weekend. This place was amazing.
Yeah, man. It's so interesting because it kind of reminds me of the one nice place I went. I went to one nice place and everything after that was just crap. But I was kind of the same way. I remember I reached a point where everyone was on my back. I think my parents were on my back. Relationship was going downhill. Place I was working at was on me. And I went to the one nice rehab that I ever went to, and I liked it there. It was cool. They had a lot of different classes. They had counseling. They used to, same kind of thing. They used to take us to the movies or bowling and kind of encourage us to, hey guys, look, you can have some fun without drugs. But the thing was, it was the same thing for me. I went there just because I kind of had to. And I had the same thought that you talked about, where if I just go to rehab and I get sober for a little bit, then everyone will be off my case. And then I could manage this just a little bit better. And I could, I always had this obsession for me, was that I'd be able to get away with it someday, or I'd be able to kind of just control it a little bit more. But I never was able to. Was it like that for you, where you just thought one day you're going to control it a little bit better, but you just never really could?
Well, I kept overdosing because I would take these stints of time and then go back and use less than I did. But at that point, my tolerancy level is out the drain, out the window. So I'd be like, oh, I'll control this. I'll control this. That place was about 3 hours away from where I live now. And I paid $700 for an Uber to come all the way home. And no one knew. No one knew at all. And that's when I overdosed again. And that's what it was. I got everybody off my back, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go get a haircut. I'm going to go talk to my family, let them know I'm good, I'm clean. I didn't even make it that far. My tolerancy was so low, I just hit an overdose right away again. And when the hospital called my family was like, what the F are you doing back in Massachusetts? When did you get here? How'd you get here? I'm like, I don't know, 3 hours ago. And that was the last straw for my family. That was the last rehab I went to until I got clean these last times. After that, my family abandoned me. My kids got taken. It was terrible.
Yeah. How did you, so you had all that stuff happen to you. Were you just finally ready when you got clean the last couple times? What kind of changed for you? Did you realize it was always kind of going to be the same? You were always going to run into overdoses? Or was it starting to lose people in your life? Or was it just, it had been so many years of using? Like, what do you think was the difference for you? What made you finally ready?
I was forced. So when I say that crack saved my life, I ended up picking up crack cocaine. So my first son got taken, and the girlfriend at the time that I had with him, now I'm not nodding out and I'm not overdosing because I'm smoking crack. So I called her one day and I said, hey, look at me, I'm clean. And we would hang out and we'd go do fun stuff. She would let me see the kid, and she said, holy cow, like, he's not dying, he's not overdosing, he's not nodding out, he must really be clean. So we got back together, we get an apartment, she gets pregnant again, second kid on the way. She finds my stem hidden in the ceiling tiles in the bathroom. I came home from work one day to an empty apartment with just my bed on the floor. And when I say my bed, she took the bed frame. All I had was my mattress and my clothes. That I was all alone, left to my own devices in that apartment. Kept smoking. Now it's poor me. How could you do this? Why would you leave me? Blah, blah, blah. We got another kid coming. Why would you do this? Poor me. And off and running, I went crazy smoking on that point. To the point where I lose my apartment, I lose my car, I lose my job, I lose everything. So now I'm robbing stores. I went into a 7-Eleven that I lived right next to at 3 a.m, and I had my dad's car. And I robbed them at gunpoint twice within 10 days. And I got away the first time, so I said, oh, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go rob this store again at gunpoint. Rob the store again. And the insane thinking, my dad was a firefighter. So he has a police scanner in our apartment, in the apartment he lives in. I'm sitting there, and the scanner says, Kyle Brinkley's a suspect in an armed robbery of 7-Eleven, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the police station. Because if I really did it, why would I just walk right in here, right? So I hit my last crack, and then I got some more heroin. Hit that, go into the police station. Let's go. I didn't do this. I didn't get a word out before they put the cuffs on me. Not one word.
They said, "Oh my God, he came to us."
So then they put me downstairs. They say bail is $5,000. Me being a good drug addict, I call my parents to bail me out again. I call my dad. Dad, hey, I need money. I'm arrested. Can you come bail me out? My dad pulls up to the police station, and the police see his car and say, hey, that's the car that was used in the robberies that we're looking for. So they say to my dad, they say, hey, can you come look at this video real quick? They show my dad the surveillance video, and my dad says, holy, that's my son. That's my car. That's my son. So the cop comes downstairs, says, hey, here's your double cheeseburger from McDonald's. It's cold, but your bail's gone. You'll be going to jail. You'll be going to court on Tuesday. And this was a Friday. So I'm like, Tuesday? What about Monday? When I'm using drugs, I don't realize the holidays and stuff like that. So I spent Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night downstairs of the police station, locked up, eating cold McDoubles and withdrawn from the heroin that I just smoked before. And I'm throwing up, and I'm cold shakes, the shitty blanket, the cement pad, and sitting there crying, no, I'll never do this again. Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then, so back to the question. So after that, I go to court, and it was district court. District court says, we're locking you up in the Worcester House of Corrections. I get locked up. My lawyer shows up, and she's talking to me a couple days after I'm in there. It was during COVID. So I got locked up in 2020, the beginning of COVID. So there was a 2-week quarantine unit. So I was in that unit, and my court appointed lawyer kept coming up to me, and she was like, hey, I think you're a drug addict. And I'm like, no, I'm not. My teeth, these are all fake. My teeth are all smoked out. My hair's all crazy. I'm 105 pounds soaking wet. She's looking at me. She's like, I think you're a drug addict. I think you're a drug addict. I'm like, no, I'm not a drug addict. We're going to beat this case, and I'm going to get free. My own thinking. And she said, buddy, they're indicting you, and you're facing 2 charges of masked armed robbery, and that's 20 to life on each one. And I said, I'm a drug addict. Yep. Yes, ma'am. I'm a drug addict. So I spent a year in Worcester House of Correction in maximum security section, Maxi B. And then Walpole at the time was classifications. I spent a little bit of time in there, and I got let free, put on an ankle bracelet, and I was forced to go to a rehab spectrum detox in Westboro. And there was a young adult program at the time, ages 18 to 26. And I was 25. So I just was able, in that program, you could stay up to a year. The other ones are 14, 28 days type thing. So that one I could stay for a year. So the judge said, you're going here, you're getting an ankle bracelet, you got to stay there for a year. When you leave there, you got to go to a sober house, you got to do X, Y, and Z. So in that program, that's when, because I sat there, and when I was locked up, a lifer told me, dude, hit your effing knees and start praying. You'll be all right. Okay. So I started praying, and they let me out. The judge let me out. And only after a year and a half of behind bars, he let me out. And pleading guilty, whole thing, parole, all this stuff, stipulations on the drug programs. And I went off and running with that. I'm a drug addict. I need more. So when I got to that program and I heard my first commitment, That same night I got to that program, I heard a commitment, and I was like, I want what that person has. How do I get that? Just like when I was doing drugs, I said, wow, you overdosed? I want that stuff. And I don't know what twisted and what switched in my brain for me to sit on this side and be like, I want what that guy's got. And that was a positive want. That was it wasn't bad. And I went off and running with it. And I got a sponsor right away. And I'm journaling and I'm praying. And they're talking about 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm like, give me that. They're like, NA. I'm like, give me that. They're like, we need people to do this. I'm like, give me that too. I'm going to do it all. And I was a star student. I'm not gonna lie. I was a star student in that program. To the point they let the ankle bracelet off me within 3 months of being in there. Yeah.
Wow, man. What a story. I love hearing it. I love hearing how people, a lot of times it's something happens. Something happens in our lives. And for you, it was that's crazy though. Your dad showing up with the van that you used and then you go through the whole court process. You probably thought you were going to be in there forever, and then they let you out. But see, the thing that I love hearing is you started to get active in recovery. You started finding places that you can go. You said you got involved in commitments and stuff like that. I just want to ask you, I know you had some stuff go on recently, but what does it feel like to be sober today? How much better is life for you when you are sober?
Like I said, so I just had 5 years clean, and I had a little mess up, start that fire under my butt. But in that 5 years, I got custody back of my kids. I met a beautiful woman. I had another kid. I got a beautiful, well-paying job. I got a beautiful apartment. My mother hugs me, tells me she loves me. My father does. My brother, everyone. The fruits of what that 5 years gave me is absolutely unbelievable. I started a clothing line. It's what I'm wearing now. I've done so much. That 5 years gave me so much, to the point I beat myself up a little bit about what happened lately. But being sober today means the world to me. Absolutely means the world to me. And I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah, man. And as you're listing all the stuff that you have in your life today, it's so cool to hear. And especially you have a gnarly story with all the different overdoses and stuff. And then to hear the things that you're talking about, the new relationships you have, the kids, and you said giving your parents a hug and they're in your life. I feel like that's what it's all about. And what happened for me is as things started to get better, I started to have better relationships with everyone. All of a sudden, I was talking to my parents and stuff, and I was doing better at work. And I just started to build this new life around me once I was sober. And it got to the point where I was like, I just don't want to I don't want to give this up anymore, And it's cool, man. I want to ask you a question I ask everyone on here. It's what would your advice be after everything that you've been through, after the relapses, the going to jail, the overdoses? What do you think? What's your advice to someone who's like me or you, and has just never really been able to get sober? What would your advice be to
The
them?
biggest thing I tell myself today, too, that's what I would tell to somebody else. Just don't get high today. Today. That's it. Only 24 hours. That's it. Hit your knees. I hit my knees in the morning. Pray. Beg God, my higher power, help me stay clean just for today. A lot of the problem with why I relapsed and stuff like that is I'm looking down the line. I gotta stay clean for a month before I get my kid back. Well, I gotta stay clean for 2 months before my mother lets me back in the house. I need to do this and that. So the part of it is, it's just today, man. You just gotta fight through the day. That's all you need to do. If you don't get high today and you go home and you put your head on that pillow knowing you didn't get high today, no matter what other bullcrap happens in the day, you just won. You won one day at a time. And that's it. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't put that ball and chain on from the past that you hold on to. All I know and what I try to tell everyone, I'm not getting high today. Tomorrow's a different story. I'll deal with tomorrow when it comes. for the next sick and suffering addict, all they have to do is just keep it in the forefront of your head, not to get high today. That's it.
Kyle, I love it, man. And Robert's on for our next recording. What's up, Robert? I want to ask you one last question, Kyle, and I just want to say thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your transparency. You're someone that you're like me, man. There's just no reason why we should be alive when you kind of look at everything that's gone on and stuff. But I'm gonna ask you one last question here. What is your goals now? So you're sober now. You've got the clothing company. You got your family in your life. What is coming up for you over the next couple of years? What's your goals? Whether it's sober, personal life, what would you say are your goals now?
I'm 29 years old with no high school diploma or GED. I always said I don't need a piece of paper to tell me how hard these hands work. Nowadays, I got my clothing line. It's called Recovering Addicts of the World. I'm going to start that podcast I was telling you about. I'm enrolling back in school to go get my GED, and I'm looking to help others in this field. I do a lot of commitments. I talk to a lot of people, especially the young adults, ages 14 to 17. I'm really just trying to help the next sick and suffering addict. And I'm an addict. I need more and more and more. I'm going to go to any lengths to go help the next sick and suffering. So I quit my job, and my full force is on just a clothing line, a podcast, and helping people and reaching out to drug awareness places and stuff like that, trying to go to high schools or jails to talk to them and stuff like that.
Hey, cool, man. Give me all the information on the clothing stuff, and I'll put all that in the episode details. I just want to say thanks again for taking the time to come on and share your story, man. And it's funny because we were talking before you started. You were thinking about a podcast, dude. You speak really well on the mic, so I would say go for it, dude. Good luck in all your adventures. And,
thank you. I'm
going
to
to
send you an email with my cell phone number. Hit me up.
I will. Send me everything. Send me all your links.
Wow, you made it to the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for all of the support. Thank you for the likes, comments, shares, the subscriptions. We're almost at 1,000. We're growing. And I just want to say, if anyone wants to come on the show, you want to tell your story, maybe you have a loved one in addiction and you want to tell that story from another perspective, from the family member, or you've suffered with addiction yourself and you're sober now, I'd love to hear from you guys. Go ahead and reach out to me, and let's go another week sober.